Action.
Would you like to know what the most provocative thing that you could say right here in America is right now? The most provocative thing that you could say is women should have babies. I know that sounds crazy as hell, but right now, the most provocative thing that any person can say is that women should have babies. Not, maybe if I get around to it after I stop traveling, after my career. No, 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 no. Immediately, for me to say that women should immediately have children, there's something wrong with that. Somehow that could be interpreted as misogynistic. I think that at a different time, maybe that would be seen as noble, or maybe like if we weren't people who want to terminate children. When I say the word terminate very specifically, numbers that you just can't unsee. Since we did Roe versus Wade and it came to pass in like 72, 73, whenever, right? Whenever. 60 million people didn't see the earth. 60 million people didn't come to life because of some idea that says it's better not to have a child than to have a child. I mean, what about my job? What about anything is more valuable? Once you find out that we terminate like a million potential people every single year, around 500 to a million potential people don't see the light of day. I wanted to have a thought experiment. Just thinking about so much death and so much carnage in the wombs of American women, I wanted to have a thought experiment. I was like, could you imagine if every legal age woman who has the ability to carry a child decided to carry a child? What would America look like if today every woman over 18 who has the capacity to have a child got pregnant? Woo! What would that do to our economy? What would that do to our way of life? Yeah. And instead of having nationwide terminations, they actually carried the babies to term. Number one, I look at the economy, right? All of a sudden, there is more jobs than there are people. And so now wages have to go up immediately, the father of the child, because these are happy families, right? The woman, you fell in love with the man that you really like, you got pregnant immediately because as soon as you gazed into his eyes, you met Prince Charming and you knew, man, I don't want to be no little, I don't want to be no side chick. I don't want to be your little honey dip. No, I want to be your wife. Make me your wife. So let's do it simultaneously. Thought experiment simultaneously, instantaneously. You have a baby and you get married simultaneously. So now we have a family, right? And so now we take daddy, because now we have a daddy and a husband. And now we have a whole workforce with a whole bunch of jobs because we just lost 51% of the workforce. And so now we got to fill these jobs. We got to fill as many of these jobs as possible. Now, even bums are getting a job. Now, the worst jobs in society are paid a good wage. And now we can negotiate vacation time and all types of things because workers have some power. Wow. Why would I even have this thought experiment? Why did I get to this place? I'm just looking at our economy. I'm looking at people. I'm looking at history. And I said, man, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris led over the borders over 10 million people. And why? They led over 10 million people because we're not having people. Because then we can look at our society and see that we can project in the future based on the number of children that women are choosing to have and having children at a later date, right? Pushing off childbirth to like 30. Oh, goodness gracious. And also in others in past societies, when they say like an old maid and things of this nature, like a woman who's unmarried, they were talking about a woman who's 25. Now the average woman is having a baby in America like over the age of 25. I said, ooh. God made you, prepared you to have a baby from, as soon as you hit puberty, that like these are your most fertile times, right? This is the eggs that God is giving you. And so for me to like really think about you biologically, in our world right now, everything has to be a big ass why. Why am I doing this? Why am I thinking that? Why am I saying this? Hell yeah, hell yeah. There are some things that men can do that women can't do. There are some things that women can do that men can't do. Number one, have babies, right? And there are some things that both groups of people can do. And it's like a little bit of overlap, but it's not completely overlapping. And when you have a society where everything is completely overlapping and men and women doing the exact same things, then you don't have no babies. You have a stagnant economy and you get all types of perversion because, yeah, man, dear woman, you're supposed to do one specific thing. That one specific thing is to give life. 60 million. That number gives me nightmares. 1 million people terminated every single year. That gives me nightmares. Why does it give me nightmares? Once I heard the numbers of World War II, that gave me nightmares. Estimated 65 million to like 80 million people were terminated during World War II. That's a lot of people. World War II is not that long ago. And then 30, 40 years later, after World War II, we make a decision to say that instead of using guns, we're going to use doctors. Instead of fighting wars with bombs, we're going to use forceps, and we're going to forcefully remove people and stop an entire 60 million. There are 330 million people in America, huh? Like in Houston, there are 5 million people. Golly, how many Houstons is that? Holy Christ. Like when you just start to quantify the amount of people that we lost, then you start having thought experiments on women being the greatest revolutionaries the world has ever seen. Why? Because a woman is the only person that has the ability to create life. That makes you the most powerful, most valuable person in the history of the world. Without you, there are no people. Without you, there are no people. And then, man, I was having this conversation about free will, and it ties in because, damn, man, could you imagine? Could you imagine? Ozempic is like the craze right now. Everybody's taking Ozempic. It's a wonder shot. Instead of doing the work, I just want a chemical. Like this has been programmed in the American people, brought to you by Pfizer and the mass media who advertised these commercials that made us think that taking a pill is a good thing, making us believe that using chemicals to stop nature is a good idea. Man, these are the most terrible ideas in the history of the world. Ozempic is a terrible idea. The birth control pill was a terrible idea. Hell. You know how you don't be fat? You don't eat so much. You don't consume so many calories. You know how you don't have a baby? Hey, you don't engage in fornication on a continuous, repeated basis without using some type of contraceptive. But when we say contraceptive, damn. If I was to tell you that I'm going to give you a pill that's going to make you lose weight and that pill would sterilize you, would you take that pill? These are like counterproductive ideas. If I tell a woman that I'm going to give you a pill and you can have a career and a job and make some money and it's going to sterilize you, would you take that pill? Millions of women took that pill. And now we're looking around the world and declining birth rates and the population collapse of the entire world. I just think that, regular, beautiful, amazing women should ask the question, like, why won't I make a decision to have a baby? And then if you decide to say, man, it's probably a good idea for me to have a baby and I want to be a revolutionary and I want to save the economy, I want to save America, I want to save the world. I got to start by loving myself. And in order to love myself, I got to do what God created me to do. And God created me to make babies. Huh? And then hopefully, the spirit of God moves upon men and men see that you comply with the natural order of life and men choose to marry you and love you and be protectors and defenders of life. Like, no one's perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone makes bad decisions. Yeah. But we can stop terminating children. We can start having conversations like if a Republican says, or if a conservative person says that I'm pro-life, right? A Democratic person or a liberal person, their response, or a leftist person shouldn't be, well, I'm pro-choice. No, you shouldn't be thinking about terminating babies. If a person says I'm pro-life, then the immediate conversation should be, so how are we going to pay for this life? If you value life, then what's the price tag on this life so that we don't terminate this life because we can't come to a negotiation on the value of life? And since we couldn't come to a negotiation on the value of life for the last 50 years, we've just been sending sweet babies to go see Jesus because of some idea that we told that women can do everything that a man can do. Hell yeah. Some things, not really physical things where you got to exert force. There are some things that women just can't do, like women can't ejaculate and, create the semen that's going to fertilize the egg to create the baby. That's your part. Hell yeah, you sweet woman. I love you so much. That's your part to have their baby. And so I'm just saying, like hypothetically, maybe today, fall in love immediately with a man. Allow him to insert that wonderful phallus inside of you. Ejaculate some of that sweet magical juice that makes that baby batter. Hell yeah, into your oven. Allow it to marinate for 9 months. And collectively, we want like 50 million babies to be born in the next 9 months. Because you 50 million women love America, you want to save America, and you see the terrible things that some of your foremothers have done. Hell yeah. They instill terrible ideas inside of your brain, and it's time for us to tell a better story. Hell yeah, a romantic story, a happily ever after story. Women have babies, and America has more people, and we can compete on a global scale because we have human capital, because we value human life, because we value the most beautiful, precious woman in the history of the world, the American female citizen, the greatest American alive.
The Greatest American Alive.